May 23, 1964. A warm, ordinary day in Cumberland, England. A father takes a photograph of his 5-year-old daughter in a quiet meadow. There was no one else around, but when the film was developed, an intruder appeared, a figure that shouldn't exist. For over 60 years, science, photography experts, and government officials have tried to debunk it. They all failed. I'm here to reopen the file on the Solway Firth Spaceman. I'm standing right here on Berg Marsh. This is where it happened. May 23, 1964. A retired fireman named Jim Templeton drives his wife and 5-year-old daughter to the marshes at Berg-by-Sands, a quiet stretch of coastline on the English side of the Solway Firth. The afternoon is still, the sky is clear, the marshes are empty. He takes one photograph of his daughter Annie, just one. She's holding flowers. She's looking at the camera. When the film comes back from development, there is something standing behind her. A figure in a white suit, a helmet, a visor covering the face. Jim Templeton didn't see it. His wife didn't see it. Annie didn't see it. Nobody saw it. And yet, there it is. This file begins, as every file should, with the witness. Jim Templeton was 55 years old in 1964, a decorated member of the Carlisle Fire Brigade, methodical, reliable, trained to observe precisely and report accurately, the kind of man who understood the difference between what was present and what was not. He was also an experienced amateur photographer. Kodachrome transparencies were his medium. He knew his equipment. The area immediately around his family, he said, was completely empty. He pressed the shutter. We start with the physical evidence, the photograph itself. The figure stands directly behind Annie Templeton. Based on her known height at age 5, the figure's estimated stature is 5.5 to 6 feet tall. It wears what appears to be a white, full-body suit, form-fitting, covering every surface, a helmet, a dark visor obscuring the face entirely. The proportions are human. The suit is consistent with nothing worn publicly in Carlisle in 1964. The first defense raised against this image is the obvious one. The figure, some investigators argue, is simply Mrs. Templeton, photographed from an unusual angle, wearing a light-colored coat and hat. It is a reasonable argument. Let's test it. First, the silhouette. The figure is squared at the shoulder, upright, with no distinguishing female form visible. The suit covers everything. Second, position. Mrs. Templeton was seated near Jim when the photograph was taken, not standing behind Annie. Third, the witness himself. Jim Templeton was shown the wife in a coat theory by journalists on multiple occasions. His response did not vary. That is not my wife. I know what my wife looks like. The photograph goes to Kodak, not as a novelty, as evidence. Jim Templeton took the image directly to his developers, and within weeks it reached one of the most respected photographic authorities in the world. Kodak's response was unambiguous. The negative showed no signs of manipulation, no double exposure, no darkroom interference, no physical tampering of any kind. They went further. Kodak offered a case of free film, a significant prize, to anyone who could provide a rational explanation for what appeared in the image. The prize was never claimed. Think about that. The photograph is published in the Cumberland News, then picked up nationally. then internationally. And then, something unexpected happens. Something that should not happen to the photograph of a quiet family picnic on an English marsh. NASA makes contact. If this investigation is worth your time, follow and subscribe to The Phantom File. New case files drop every week. To understand this photo, we have to leave the damp marshes of England and travel 5,000 miles away to the red deserts of Woomera, Australia. Just weeks after Jim Templeton took his photograph in June 1964, a top-secret Blue Streak missile launch was abruptly aborted. The reason? Technicians detected two anomalous giant figures in white suits standing near the launch pad. Shortly after, NASA contacted Jim. They didn't ask about aliens. They wanted to know about Cumberland's weather, the lighting, even how the local cattle behaved that day. Jim answered them and then asked why NASA cared about a fireman's family photo. He never got an answer. Then came the visitors. Two men in dark suits arrived at Jim's door in a sleek black Ford Zephyr. They didn't give names, only numbers, number 9 and number 10. Jim told them about the sudden, eerie stillness, the cattle crowding at the far end of the pasture. The men exchanged a silent look, got back in their car, and drove away. If it wasn't a hoax, and it wasn't a glitch, we are left with a chilling possibility. Kodachrome film can capture ultraviolet light waves invisible to the human eye. The camera saw something that Jim couldn't. We aren't closing this case file with a verdict of alien visitation. We are closing it with a verdict of deliberate suppression. Something was on the marsh that afternoon, and the people who came to investigate did everything they could to ensure there was no paper trail. Jim Templeton lived in Carlisle until his death in 2011, never changing a single detail of his story. He didn't want fame. He just wanted to know who was standing behind his daughter. We are still waiting for the answer.